So the Nintendo leaks, rumors, discussion videos in 2023 have definitely started to ramp up for, well, really a myriad of reasons. At its core level, I think a lot of people just want new Nintendo hardware. The Nintendo Switch has been a great system, but it's sort of past tense with this thing. When you look at the system itself, it's obviously struggling to run certain games. Certain games are getting delayed or canceled for the system, and of course technology continually moves along with things like the Steam Deck and all these cloud-based devices that are coming out. Nintendo is definitely a bit lacking in terms of what games can be played on their system besides their first-party games. You can look at, speaking of games, the games that Nintendo was releasing in 2023 for the Nintendo Switch. Of course, Tears of the Kingdom is kind of the crown jewel, and well, statistically speaking, whenever Nintendo releases a brand new Zelda game, there's usually something coming up on the horizon, something meaning a new Nintendo piece of hardware. The longest time that we've gotten between sort of a gap was Skyward Sword on the Nintendo Wii, which was a year to the date before the Wii released. Of course, Nintendo has been riding the success of the Nintendo Switch into its 7th year now. It is the longest running Nintendo home console in terms of length without having its successor announced or something new on the horizon ever. It's a thing where it's just like, I understand some of it. You know, the system is still selling very well, and Nintendo is obviously enjoying this success after things like the Wii U, but at some point in time, you have to talk about a successor. You have to move on, or else we all would be playing still NES games because the NES was still selling well. You know what I'm saying? There comes a point in time where it's like, okay, enough is enough. It's time for a change. Shoutouts to Owen Hart. Rest in peace. Of course, if you go on the internet now, you hear all this stuff about the Switch 2's in production, and you know it's already done, and Nintendo's sitting on it, which makes absolutely zero sense. But you also have the fact that Reggie Fils-Aimé once lied to IGN saying there wasn't a new Nintendo 3DS, and then literally the next day they announced a new Nintendo 3DS. We haven't really heard much from our American president of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser, on really anything. He doesn't really talk about anything. Furukawa, kind of the same thing. At least with Furukawa, whenever you have like the shareholders meetings and stuff like that, you can get a little bit of information. With Doug Bowser though, it's like, what does this dude do? Like, take naps and sit in an office and like twiddle a pencil? Like, I don't understand what he does, and it's really because Nintendo of America is more of a marketing company. Well, Doug Bowser recently had an interview with the Associated Press, and they were pressing him about the Nintendo Switch and, of course, a successor. What is looming on the horizon? So I want to read this quote from Douglas and then sort of break it down. I hope he goes by Douglas, and if not Douglas, that's okay, Douglas. As we enter the 7th year for the Nintendo Switch, sales are still strong. I think we still have a very, very strong lineup coming. As Mr. Furukawa, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa, said recently, we're entering uncharted territory with the platform. It's exciting to see that demand is still there. So nothing to announce on any future console or device, but we are still feeling very bullish about the Nintendo Switch. I should be careful about what I personally would like to see in a new Nintendo Switch. But what I can share is that one of the reasons that we are going into year 7, we feel very confident that the Switch can have a strong performance over the next few years, is that it is truly a unique device that can play in a variety of ways, at home or on the go. One of the things we always look at is how we can surprise and delight, how we can introduce new unique ways of playing. That's always in the front of our mind. So obviously Nintendo is somewhat happy with the continued success of the Nintendo Switch, but we have to be realistic about this. Sales are down year over year. Like, yes, it's still selling very well, but sales are down year over year. So it's starting to slow down. You have a system that has sold like over 110 million units, and you have to realize that at some point in time, you're going to hit the law of diminishing returns. You're going to hit sort of a brick wall where it's like everyone who wants one has one, and everyone who doesn't want one isn't going to buy one because you're not doing things like price drops on the system. The strong lineup of software for 2023, that's a very interesting thing because, like I just said, we have Tears of the Kingdom. You know, that's kind of the big crown jewel of the Nintendo Switch. You have Pikmin 4, which I guess people are excited about, but we don't know anything beyond that. Like, yeah, you could say, oh, well, there's Metroid Prime 4. I don't think that's coming out in 2023 or 2024, maybe 2024 for a new system. But I find it interesting that we're saying the software lineup is very strong when you haven't really talked about anything beyond Tears of the Kingdom, because I think a lot of Nintendo fans, you know, there's a lot of Nintendo fans that aren't dumb. You know, they can sort of read between. There are a lot of dumb Nintendo fans. Holy Christ on a cracker. There are a lot of dumb Nintendo fans who don't understand anything, but there are a good segment of people who do understand things. And it's like, well, you could say one thing, but it obviously doesn't necessarily mean what we expect it to mean. Because like I said, you have to go back to Reggie Fils-Aimé talking about, you know, there is no new Nintendo 3DS, and then the next day there was. Going back to the sales thing, you know, I think it's interesting that, you know, that they seem to believe that the system is still selling very well, and it is, but comparatively speaking, you know, your competitors are starting to catch up a little bit. Now they're starting to get their footing, they're starting to hit their stride. So you kind of do have to realize, okay, you know, we are reaching a maximum capacity here. You know, we're at our infinite level of how many people we can get. The second half of the quote, though, that's the thing that should scare everyone. You know, that's the thing. Whenever people say, oh, well, you know, the next Switch is going to have backwards compatibility. Will it? Because when I think of how we could surprise and delight, how we can introduce new, unique ways of playing that's always in the front of our mind, that doesn't necessarily sound like a Nintendo Switch. And let's be realistic here. The Nintendo Switch concept isn't exactly a spring chicken anymore. You have things like the Steam Deck, which play games on the go. They play games on a television. You know, you could dock the system and stuff like that. And arguably speaking, you know, the quality as far as the technical aspects of the games on Steam Deck is superior to what you see on the Nintendo Switch. If there's a third-party game that's coming out on Steam and it's coming out on the Nintendo Switch, more than likely playing the Steam Deck version is going to be a better experience in terms of frame rates and in terms of resolution. Yes, you do have, you know, problems with the battery of the system when it comes to the Steam Deck, but still, it is the same sort of concept. And you have all these different, you know, cloud-based stuff coming along, like I said. So what do I think about this answer? You know, what's the sort of truth behind this answer? Doug Bowser is a marketing person. That's all Nintendo of America is, a marketing firm, a translation firm for Japanese games. This isn't like Sega of Japan and Sega of America in the 90s, where you had this fierce competition within the two companies who said, we're doing things differently. The reason you got Sonic CD was because Sonic CD is what Yuji Naka wanted Sonic the Hedgehog 2 to be, and Sega of America was like, no, that's a little bit too weird. We're doing a traditional Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And they developed two different games because they were two different companies. I don't think that's the ideal solution here, but I do feel like Nintendo of America is kind of pointless. You know, beyond just the marketing, beyond the translations that the Treehouse does. It's kind of a pointless entity because it doesn't have any of that fire or that bark to, you know, sort of say anything to Nintendo of Japan. I still feel like, you know, we are reaching the end of the Nintendo Switch. If they fully believe that the system as it stands right now is going to last a few more years without anything on the horizon, I think they're in for a bit of a wake-up call. Unless there's a huge price drop or something like that, like, there are ways to circumvent it, but you have to imagine it's just like, what the hell is so hard about releasing an incremental upgrade for this system? What's so hard about just giving, you know, what makes sense without having to reinvent the wheel, without having to be, you know, something fun and something, you know, crazy different, a new experience? Like, sometimes there's nothing wrong with the old experience. You know, it gets the job done and it's what the people want. And you could sort of market something to where you think this is what people want, but as we saw with things like the Virtual Boy, as we saw with things like the Wii U, that's not exactly the move. So I just wanted to talk about this because obviously it's going to be a pretty hot topic, I feel, today. And there's, you know, there's a lot of ways to break it down. You could take what Doug says at the surface level and, you know, believe that that's what Nintendo thinks is the move. Obviously, a company is going to keep some of their cards close to their chest because, you know, you don't want to blow your load, especially when there is no, you know, new system that has been confirmed. But I kind of want to know, like, what you guys think is the general consensus here. Like, is it going to be a 2023 system? I really don't think it is. I think early 2024. Do you think it's going to be a 2024 system, or are we taking this at face value. Are we saying that Nintendo is going to ride this system out for another 2, 3, 4 years? And if that's the case, how the hell are they going to do that? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell notification as well. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.